Good morning, folks, and welcome to FYI. For your information, it's the third day of November, and blackouts going to be the death of us in this country. Blackouts will be the death of us. How you going to run a business? How you going to run a country without any power? We're going to be talking about that, among other things. This morning, Region 10, we're going to be talking about Region 10. We might be talking to some folks in Region 10 as well, good folks, wherever you're joining us from. Share the live, smash that emoji button. I hate to be late. I hate it with a passion. A passion. Hate it. This country, my Lord. My Lord. Good to see all of you on the live. Let me start the right way. Good to see you on the live. Hope you guys have hit the ground running this morning. We tried, but we missed the ground. When you got to depend on these jacobats and trench croppers. Next week, in earnest, we're beginning the our fundraiser for more power. Next week in earnest. I was going to delay it a little bit because we always want to be harping on people. You know always want to be harping on folks. I was going to delay it and do it early next year, but the folks are, as you'll see later on in the morning, the folks are telling us blackouts are going to become more prevalent. Blackouts and finishing, it will be more prevalent. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine Ingrid King, Aubrey Stevens, Julian Lewis? You elect a government to tell you there'll be more blackouts. I see somebody says, I look a little tired, Julia Lewis. Julian, wrong. When you got to deal with these issues, Julia, day in, day out, it's tiring. It's like a weight, it's like an anchor. And we got to throw up these weights from our shoulders. It is stressful. I can imagine folks who have big business, but some of them will be quiet because they wanted them. They wanted them. You should hear how businessmen complain, off camera, of course. You should hear how businessmen complain, off camera, of course. Please and thank you. Off camera, of course. That's the way to do it. Off camera. On camera, they can say all the politically correct things because people understand a wicked and a vindictive government. Folks, welcome to the broadcast. For your information, blackouts will become more prevalent. It will become more prevalent. And then Arfan Ali wants to go to places like Region 10 and say, oh, I had a successful trip. I had a successful time there. Folks, what are you guys having? Something in my coffee this morning. Something in the coffee. See how awkward that looks? I'm always looking for a very suave way. How is that? Sometimes we're a little puggly. When you're dealing with these folks here, you gotta look tight every day. The issues, you have to be circling back. You gotta be circling back to Edward Brooms. Edward says, keep Sue Gate alive. We haven't forgotten. Sue getting everything, the rest of us getting the crumbs. Remember, Sue gets all the support. He handles all the arrangements and he gets all the support. That's what Jack Dio said in that living room. Cameras rolling and all. I handle things from the government side. Folks, and these guys, Beatrice Selby, Maureen Chichester, right? They're going to run out and say everything nice, good governance. And look, Maureen Chichester Paul says, I love my New York City. No blackouts. I love it too. Take me back now, Maureen. Maureen Chichester Paul. Take me back. I love my New York City too. My North Carolina, South Carolina, my Georgia, my Somerville. No blackouts. Take me back. Chinese your time. Them boys gone up there. Region 10. Is everything nice? We saw one publication that says, highly successful Region 10 outreach. Folks, you can't make this stuff up, you know. Highly successful Region 10 outreach, as we told you, folks. We were there in Region 10, spoke with some of the residents in Hururu. They went there. Spoke to residents in Somerville. We showed you on last evening's program, yesterday morning's program, at Hururu, and then Laudersville. Did I say Somerville? Laudersville. Beautiful communities on the Berbice River there. Is it the Berbice River or is it the Demerara River? They're on a river. They're on a river, folks. Beautiful people, hospitable. But the governance they're receiving, they don't like it. And you will hear for yourselves. So when you see headlines in which the People's Progressive Party are touting, highly successful, and you heard the fellow last night said, even they really come to listen to my problems. It's a showpiece, photo ops. That is what they're geared towards. Fidel Illis says it's the Berbice River. Yeah. Thank you, Fidel. Interesting, the geography of this country. Very interesting. Fidel, Desiree Manuel. So they run out to see it was a highly successful, right? Highly successful intervention in Region 10. Hururu, they visited Laudersville, I think. But the residents there say something different, right? I was privileged to be there with Vice Chair of the region, Mr. Mark Goring, as he engaged with residents. Listen to the complaints of residents on the ground. And they said they had a highly successful. They fixed nothing, but we had a highly successful outreach in Region 10. Take a look. Take a listen.
In August, I heard your concern in a preparation for a budget. I would have taken those things into consideration in preparing our 2024 budget submission. I can assure you that I would have done that. Just as promised, this is our submission for our capital project, signed by me. I was the acting chairman at the time, received by the REO, Regional Executive Officer. Let me report what I placed in that budget submission as we communicate. Laudersville. Oh, here. So we have here submission from Laudersville, construction of road with accompanying drains and culvert from Laudersville Crossing to Russell Gate. That's correct. Construction of a community center, so Laudersville. I think you guys pointed out that community center. Construction of a basketball court, so Laudersville. Purchase of a 30-seater bus to transport people from Mapletown to Laudersville and return. Purchase of a 3-horsepower single-phase 220-volt water pump to push potable water through the entire village. Is that correct? Those are the things that you guys give to me. I can tell you, for the first time, we would have able to submit a budget for Laudersville, and the rest is left up now to the government of Guyana to say if they will approve this stuff for you guys, right? As I say before, I make no promises. I'm a representative. I'm here to represent your interests. Don't control the money. Government control the money. So if any government official come here and they come and they keep a meeting, you guys can ask them about the stuff that was sent to the regional executive officer, who is the government accounting officer within the region, and if those information would have reached them so that they can approve them for the 2024 budget submission. So because I take about 10 minutes just to meet from, the road is less than a kilometer, which is supposed to take me a couple seconds to reach from Mr. Leps to this ball field. And that's in terrible state. So I'm hoping that the government really see the need of the people to make sure that you guys have your work. And I want to come back here when the rain start again in the rainy season, so I can actually have capture what you guys normally go through on a daily basis as you commute this road.
Victor Korsting is the person who spoke to you about the CDC rules, right? Because we have had CDC in this community here for a very long time, and we have never seen before the CDC rules. In fact, I am of the view that people were fooling us all the time. They were CDC rules or CDC constitution, because people come and tell us different things different times, right?
So coordinator that come and do it never
Right.
make it available.
Never made it available. When I was the chair here at one time, elected during the APNU government, and Mr. Lorimer and Mr. Perry came here and held an election, and they nominated 3 persons to be on the committee because they said that was their prerogative based on the Constitution. So we asked them to see the Constitution. They said they were going to bring it in for us. They never brought it, right? I asked several persons all over the place and couldn't see that Constitution. What you sent to me there are the CDC rules. I read it through, and one of the things it said was that elections have to be held annually.
Every year.
And we have had elections here since April last year,
So June.
right? So time has passed for us to have another election. But when the regional representative came up here on the 5th of last month, right?
That person.
Right? That was the PM representative, the REO, and they had Mr. Forsyth came. And they told us that they have to be instructed by the ministry to come and hold elections. And they said that Mr. Martin Williams is a very good leader. That he bothers them 5 o'clock in the morning and he asks for things for this community. And why the people want elections to change him? Because he's a good leader. And they asked the people to give him a round of applause. And that is what some people did. Give him a round of applause. And they took that to mean that he's a very good leader in the community. Right? But from what you hear there just now, a lot of people are dissatisfied with the representation we're getting here. Right? Because I know I spoke directly to the vice chairman of the CDC last night, and I informed him about this meeting today. And he said he was going to come. I don't see him here. I don't see the chairman here. I don't see a lot of the committee members here.
I talked to the
Right.
leader first before I come. I don't want to come before I speak to the leader.
So that gives me the impression that they're not interested in a lot of things that goes on here, right? But when the government is sending in assistance through the party's representative, we notice that they distribute these things to mainly party supporters, like the cash grant that came recently, right? I think it's about 8 persons got 200,000 cash grant. And those cash grants went to mainly PPP supporters, right? And they got before, right? And they get again, right? On our page in Ladensville, I put a post that cash grants for business, I think should go to the people who are starting up businesses, the young people, the people who are now struggling, not the big shop owners. I own a shop in here, but I wouldn't look forward for a 200,000 cash grant from the government when there is a seamstress who wants a machine, right? Or a person who is doing tailoring, not tailoring, barbering, who need to set up a little barber station and that sort of thing. They need to get it, not the people who are well established over the years, right? During the flood relief that came, right? Some people in Nipatong got flood relief, right? And my yard was under the water, like 3 feet underwater. And we didn't receive any. And Nipatong, I was a surveyor before. And Nipatong, I know, is 50 feet above the elevation here, right? And portions in Mapletown got flood relief. Now, it's just friends and probably political supporters, parties, are the ones who are receiving. And I don't think that is right at all. Um, so I think that we need to stick to those rules if those are the real CDC rules that you give me there, right? And make sure that we hold those meetings, those elections promptly, annually. If the people want to vote you back into office, well, that's okay with me. But if they don't want to vote you, let us stick to the rules and have the elections annually, right? So that's regarding the elections.
They say the voice of the people is the voice of God. And the weekend before, we were in there. The president was in there. And you heard the resident say, he really listened to our concerns in a previous broadcast. Right? Listen to what the complaints are. Listen to what the complaints are. And you have coming out from government propaganda, oh, the outreach to Region 10 was successful, but yet the problems persist. Forbes, Meduse, Hollis Charles, and all the other folks, Maureen Chichester, Neville Seatel. Neville said that Madia, they got nothing irregular at Madia. Folks, I think I want to talk with the regional chairman this morning. Yesterday morning, we had the vice chair, who I was happy to be with as we touched some of those communities. Valid, credible information all the time for you. That's why we go the extra mile. And that's why we ask that you guys partner with us as well, because that's what we want. Valid, credible information. And we can't do it any other way. We can't sit in, our AC offices and get it done. Folks, I think we're joined this morning by the chairman of the Regional Democratic Council, Region 10, under whose purview some of these riverine communities fall under. Hururu, you heard there from the residents of Laudersville, Aichuni, Kokwani, Araima, and some of the other places there. Mr. Chairman, a very good morning. Mr. Chairman, I am well. I don't know if you had a chance to hear that. Some of what we covered there just now at Laudersville and what the resident was talking about, some of the setbacks that they're having there. But the PPP says they had a very successful Region 10 outreach.
Well, Shara, the propaganda machine is always firing on all cylinders when it comes to the PPP and their minions that they have in the region. But when you actually go on the ground and you engage communities, that is when you get a feel. When you hear directly from the people, you will recognize that nothing really has happened in the Berbice River area. Nothing significant has happened for the people. Massive corruption, especially at that village, Hururu, where the Tushao, Zalech cannot account for millions of dollars. And these allegations were sent to the Amerindian Affairs Ministry. They turned a blind eye on it, and he continues to misappropriate funds and with no accountability. We believe, of course, he's being covered, he's receiving political coverage, because when these reports come, well documented by the residents, they don't have access, they don't have meetings, he can't account. Apparently he's the Tusha, the treasurer and everything. It's alleged that signatures were forged, and monies just can't be accounted for. And so we stand with the residents who spoke out, who were bold. What they have to be guard against now is that they will attempt to go now and victimize many of those residents and attempt to practice domination and control while trying to protect this Tushao, who was reported and continues to mismanage millions of dollars in the community. I can say to you that in 2020, November, we saw the president and his team visiting the Berbice River. All of the projects that the people are in the Berbice River are benefiting from today are projects that started under the coalition government. What this government has done has dismantled all of the well-structured programs that benefited those communities, whether it was at Ururu, Wiruni, Ibini, Deville, Gateway. We had the program, the Bartram Collins College of the Public Service, where Amerindian brothers and sisters, young people were coming out and being trained. Many of you heard of it. Immediately 6 months after they took office, they closed the programs down, and so there is no job creation or no training for young professionals who are desirous of coming into the public service. Under the coalition, we started the construction of a dormitory at LTI because we wanted to ensure that persons from the outlying areas, from those rural communities, could have done their studies, the tertiary education at LTI. Those who want to get involved in engineering, in communication studies, in information and communication technology. The dormitory 3 years after is still not completed. And so they have been dragging their foot, especially on things that the coalition left, things that we believe and we know would have been empowering to the people of the Berbice River. Everything has been dismantled. The ICT programs in the communities, they have left it to deteriorate because they do not want the communities to access information. And so it's unfortunate, but we will continue to educate and at the same time agitate against all the discriminatory practices that have been happening to Amerindians. Not only Afro-Guyanese, Amerindians are being targeted. Okay, under the coalition, communities like Ururu, Wiruni, Gateway were receiving, senior citizens were receiving their pension on a monthly basis. This government took over, changed it, and the people had to wait 6 months before they get their monies. And then when officers got into the region, they sat in their boats and expected the senior citizens to navigate their way down the landing. They couldn't even have the courtesy to set up a table, a little office area on the land, so that the senior citizens can access their pension. And so many of these concerns were brought directly to the administration. The need for a secondary school at Wiruni, because it is the midpoint. The residents told us that is one of the things that they've been asking us for. And we made representation since 2020. They ignored it. And now what has happened is that the president has gone in for a PR stunt for window dressing to make it appear that this is the first time his team is hearing about these matters. These things are well documented in the minutes of the statutory meetings of the RDC, but they were completely ignored. Issues of the teachers' living quarters, the conditions, the David G buses that we, under the 5B programs, they allowed all to deteriorate. Now none of the buses are operational in the area. Students having to go to school from Hororo to Kokwani, no life jackets in the boats. All of these things are well documented. We built that health facility in the Berbice River, and we placed the water ambulances. Many of you remember when Valda Lawrence and the health team went in, and we handed over water ambulance in both the Demerara River for Maratara and Malali, and in the Berbice River for all of the communities there. They allowed those boats to deteriorate. If you see the condition of the health boat, and so this government is not genuinely interested in the social and the economic well-being of our people. They're playing politics, and they believe that by just giving cash grants and handouts and hampers, that they are doing the people of the Upper Demerara Berbice region. The communities along the Berbice River was the hardest hit during the flood season. Kokwani and those communities along the Berbice River. The president and the government gave to Region 9 $1 million to 600 families. 1 million to 600 families. But they ignored the plight and the pleas of the people of the Berbice River, including people at Ururu and Wiruni. Never received a penny. But now you come because I believe that they're in full campaign mood because they know that if an elections is called now, they're going to get a trashing here like they got in the local government elections. And so they're now attempting to suck up and play that they have the interest of the people at heart. The people must reject them and understand that under PPP's government, there can be no development for the Upper Demerara Berbice region.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, as an aside, you talk about those families that got $1 million. I saw in this morning's paper, they said they have a home improvement project for Lane Avenue here in Georgetown. $50 million for 200 plus persons, which is just under probably $200,000 per family for home improvement. No, no, folks. With the cost of living, dramatically being increased every day in this country, what home improvement you can do with just under $200,000, maybe $170 per family. This is in the city, $170,000, $180,000 perhaps, right? What can you do with that? It is the growing disparities that we see that frightens us. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned one of the things we heard there on the ground. As soon as we touched down, we don't have representation here. And I know they're not talking about the RDC. What they mean is that we don't see development. We ain't seen them people that we elect. We ain't seen the Tushau, really and truly. He's not giving account. We ain't seen the head for the CDC, the Community Development Council. We're not engaging them. They're not engaging us. Clearly, we're not getting representation. I saw your value team member, the vice chair, painstakingly said, look, we had in the budget here, X, Y, Z, bridge, this, road, and so on. Are you guys satisfied? And while we make the representation at this level, it's left to the government to approve, to approve the monies. I noticed you all built a bridge there in Hururu, for instance. The regional vice chair was asking, are you satisfied with the quality of the work? Because, you all made the representation for the bridge, but you don't control the contractor. You don't control who gets the contract. You don't control the quality of bridge that they're going to get eventually. Government is doing all of that, trying to bypass the region, even though you made the representation.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Correct. So to answer the first question, that Shara, this government, and you've seen it from since October 2020 when they took office. This government has no respect for democratic principles, and they do not respect the spirit of the Constitution. Just a few weeks ago, you would have seen in the papers where in all of the communities, especially in Region 10, which is targeted strategically by them because they lost at the NDC at Kokwani, they lost at the RDC here, at the municipality, the very vice president came out and made it public that he will not be engaged in the elected officials. He prefers to work with the minions he has on the ground and with people who are political. And so it is no surprise that you're getting the complaints from communities like Ururu and even Wiruli and all the other areas, and even here at Linden, that the government is not engaging the elected officials. What they will do is engage maybe with the Tushau and a few others who are part and parcel of the corruption.
Yes,
now, as you know, and so that is a sad situation. And so the other members on the council don't know anything. They're not privy to anything. And that is why they were asking questions there at the meeting. Because even, and if you listen, even at the RDC, in the budget submission from 2020 to 2022, I have not signed off on any of the budgets with the exception of last year's budget, because, with the exception of this, the 2024 budget, sorry. Because in the National Assembly at the time, Damalal got up and said that the regional chairman had signed off on the budget, and I indicated that I never signed off because they were taking the ideas and the consultation that flowed from the people, and when we brought it, they decided that, okay, they don't want no playgrounds. They're not putting in the people playground that they asked for in those communities, and even here at Linden. The RDC building, the people who are under their direct employ, when we thought that that would have been a priority for them, they removed it from the budget just because it was a project started by under the coalition. Playgrounds, sports facilities, they are not consulting. Right now they came into the community of Linden, took command of a members club. You think that could have happened in Babujan or any other area? And do not want to consult with the people. But what they do is when you make a submission based on the representation from the people, they delay it for a year or two, repackage it, and then present it back months or years after, like if they are who are the initiators of these projects. And so people need to understand that all of the roads that we made representation for, we signed off on them, and we handed them over to the engineers that were working on behalf of the Public Works Ministry. And I think I highlighted them when we were in. I can't remember the names of the engineers that came on behalf of Public Works. But what they did is they took those submissions and make it appear as if they were the ones who came on the ground and documented it. We are the ones who live here. We know the roads, the bridges. Now that bridge at Ururu that the residents are complaining that look like a $500,000 bridge, I think it was 11 million that was allocated for that project.
That's the figure we heard, 11 million.
11 million. But as you would have seen when you came here, many of the projects that they have completed in just 2 months. Look at the road from West Watuka deteriorated within a week. The road in front of the Watuka house that these very ministers come and drive past. Edgel boasted of 53 million. It bulged in 2 weeks after he completed it. $50-something million. And so they do not have the interest of the people at heart. It's just about the top 1% and the minions and their friends, families, and favorites who are benefiting from the millions of dollars when we all should be benefiting. We made a simple policy here. We said, if you're going to a community, especially Wiruni and the Amerindian communities, allow those villagers who are experienced, who know about the contract or the work that is to be done. Give the projects to them. There should be a special concession for Amerindian villages. I think Gail Teixeira mentioned that some years ago, where whenever a project is being executed in an Amerindian community, those jobs should go to the Amerindians. We share that view, the skilled ones, and they can employ technical people to guide them. Yet, I can show you tender documents where rather than simple things like the repairing of fence and the repairing of guard huts, when they should be going to, and the repairing of a roof and a ceiling, when they should be going to the very Amerindians in Wiruni and Gateway and Bevel. I have the tender documents that will show you where there are people who are winning those projects from Region 5, 6, Georgetown. And so that political stunt where you see the president pull, where he said, oh, they're going to build a wooden secondary school, which we made representation for, and the jobs must go to the people in the community, is a bluff. It's a bluff. Because we were advising them to do that since 2020, and they ignore us. And we can show you the evidence where many of the projects that were being done over the past 3 years in that corridor, in that area, were being given to friends, family, and favorites of people who are from Region 5, 6, 3, coming all the way to Linden and the Borbis River, and they are getting the jobs over the people who are in the community. And it's unfortunate. And so, central government, as I said, over the past 3 years, this government has been ignoring the representation made by the elected officials, and they are determining their own priorities. They're not listening to what the people would have been saying. Right? There is no longer and you know, that's why I said in a previous engagement with you that both NDCs, RDCs, they are between a rock and a hard places. While on paper the democratic credentials are there and it exists, the authority to the budgetary allocations and the determined projects will only happen in the order and in the manner that which it is organized and represented by councillors and members of the different Amerindian communities. Well, it will only happen if central government respects the authority and the democratic credentials that were given to those people when they were elected. Clearly, that is not happening. We are seeing an administration that has no such desire. They will use all avenues to have their say. And you know, it's just unfortunate. The only way we can get past this is that we have to vote them out of office and put a competent team that is genuinely concerned about the Amerindians, about all the races in this country. And I believe that team is an APNU plus AFC coalition team.
Yeah. Well said, Mr. Chairman. Couldn't add anything to that. I want to thank you for spending this time with us this morning on such very short notice. I know you're very, very busy. You have that entire region to administrate, and this is not administrating folks from no AC office. You know, while we were out there, the vice chair and I, we were touching base with those riverine communities. The chairman was in another direction on the ground, getting work done. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your service.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right. That's it, folks. On that front, I'm so grateful, so very grateful the regional chairman joined us this morning. Try to make sense, you know, if sense can be made of some of these issues. If sense can be made. Then the folks went down there and said they had a highly successful meeting in Region 10, outreach, and you got all them problems persisting. The villagers are saying, where is our representation? The two shows that are aligned to them. The CDC chairman, this is the Community Development Councils, the CDCs. The chairman aligned to them. Where are they? They're not seeing them. That's the tragedy we have, unfortunately. That's the tragedy we have. Other news we're following, NIS is heading overseas. You might see them somewhere close to where you guys are. They're heading to Brooklyn, Schenectady, let me know if I got that right, and Queens. Because folks who work a very long time, some may have migrated entitled to NIS and got a host of problems, right? Now, I would want to say if we had an efficient system, you would have to go to Queens. People could stay in Queens and have the service efficient service, right? One of our sons, he was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember when his passport expired. Just went online. I never saw the people at the passport office there. They never saw me. What's this passport? His birth certificate, as a matter of fact. What's his passport? His birth certificate. They were transitioning to a better quality and all the other stuff. And online, you pay a fee, pay to have it expedited, right? We didn't see them and they didn't see us. All that online. I'm not necessarily hitting the NIS too hard because, you know, some people might want to go on a free trip overseas, so they're using a pretext. But people got a lot of NIS concerns. I'm happy to doing something. When all else fails, above all, one fellow, a leadership expert says, do something. When everything fails, above all, do something. So we're just happy they're doing something. And lots of you watching us might got your own NIS challenges. Right? And so they're heading into the diaspora. Brooklyn, Schenectady, Queens, New York. Look out for the NIS team if you got concerns. You might want to follow this on the NIS page. We're going to put it out on our page as well. They're coming close to you. Right? But we're in a technological age and we're not supposed to be working harder. We're supposed to be working smarter. I could imagine the price tag to move staff to the US, accommodate staff and all of that. But if the end product, you know, people's setbacks and challenges with NIS are mitigated, but then fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I'd love to see a better system. You know, we got the technology, we got to use it. I think they invent Zoom and Hangouts and Messenger and so on. And somebody should be able to call in somewhere virtually and speak with a representative face to face. The technology is there. Any hour of the day. Speak with a representative face to face. You know, I reached out to the GT&T CEO, Mr. Ned, former CEO, when he held that post. And I said to Mr. Ned, for a multi-billion-dollar company, some stuff is just fascinating to me, right? If you try to use MMG, try to set it up, at least at that time, you had to skip through hoops. It was weeks upon weeks. I'm certain those of you who in the diaspora and you use Cash App and so on, you can set it up in 2 minutes. These people want proof of address, proof of you own some building or something like that. A whole long list of things. And then they wouldn't approve or disapprove the application for a long time. I know the system could be better now, but I said to him, I find it challenging. You reach out to, at least this was when Mr. Ned was there. It might be better now. I don't know. You reach out to an agent via that, 4448 or 0444, something like that number. Bouncing you around the place, one place to the next, bouncing you around the place. If you call from a cell phone, that will eat away at your credit. 45 minutes you hold and you don't talk to nobody as yet. If I got a problem with almost any foreign company you engage, Netflix, Verizon, in the chat, you could chat with an agent and rectify your problem. We got Apple equipment, right? We like it for the durability. Something goes wrong. We had a problem recently, and in the chat, we chatted with an agent, and they guided us through troubleshooting. That could be AI for all I know, even better. Guided us through quick. Do X, Y, and Z, bang. Under 5 minutes, problem solved. We got to work smarter and not necessarily harder. And while it is good that people in the diaspora may have their problems resolved, right? We're not fixing systems really and truly, you know. And I'm certain somebody on the WhatsApp should be able to call a number and see somebody in Guyana from NIS and talk to them about the NIS challenges and have it rectified. They should be able to do it from anywhere in the world. That to me is efficiency. And not picking up a whole set of people, flying them, hotel bill, food bill, a whole set of stuff. You know, a whole set of challenges. So, best wishes to the team. Best wishes to the NAS team heading out, touching on some more issues in the 592 blackout. Oh, Father. Well, this one got us. Right? This one got us. This one got us. Blackouts. Well, the headlines are searing this morning. Continued blackouts, according to the GCCI, is leading to disruption in production. That's what we mean when we say you can have a business on the grid here and operate with any kind of efficiency. You can have a business and do that. So the Georgetown Chambers of Commerce, GCCI, they've come out to say they're very disappointed. Very disappointed. But one of the other things they said surprised me. They support the government's something mix, pancake mix or roti mix or something like that. And then they talked about a mile of falls. Nobody didn't tell them a mile of falls dry up. And the government is willing to pour billions in that, where they can fetch water from somewhere and throw it to spin the turbines. You see, because GCCI has to stay politically correct. Hypocrites, we bemoan the consistent, persistent, pervasive, ubiquitous blackouts. But we support the energy mix, right? And they listed a mile of falls there. gas to shore. Folks, when the gas to shore bill done with we, my God, you can't pay for power in this country. When they got to recoup the cost of all them hundreds of billions of US dollars for the gas to shore project, oh, Father, might as well buy a candle, a flambeau. You'll be able to eat. That we can be rested. We can be working the rest of our life for pay for power in this country. Right? I see some places investing in their citizens, going solar, and then creating the capacity for them to sell their excess power to the national grid. We ain't got time with them things. We ain't got time with them things. So the GCCI be mourning blackouts, folks. Right? I saw another headline this morning that says the GPL to institute penalties. Listen to this, as 99% of shutdowns caused by accidents and construction. 90% of accidents, 90% of the shutdown rather, caused by, here they say, accidents, construction, and otherwise. 90%. That's what them boys. Yet another headline. This tabloid news. Offline generator deepens GPL woes. Offline generator. Folks, you all think it's easy in this country? It is not easy by a long shot. We saw another headline, this time in the Kaieteur newspaper. Blackouts are back with a vengeance. Blackouts back with a vengeance. I thought these boys up to AFC didn't know what they're doing. And you all know, if you want to be honest with ourselves, the blackouts became a thing of the past. Fewer and fewer under the last administration. Right? Baradindial failed in their tenure. They brought him back. Sadly, owing to ill health, they had to take him off. They bring Kesh Nandalal, the Attorney General's brother, bring him from somewhere in Canada where he lived his whole life. He lived the whole life. They bring him now, and soon he come like a cross. Right? Offline generator deepens GPL woes. Tabloid news. Kaieteur, blackouts are back with a vengeance. Blackouts are back with a vengeance. PNCR had a press conference yesterday and dealt with this issue. It's weekly press conference. Listen to some of what they said.
His stubbornness and incompetence have created a blackout crisis throughout the coast. Blackouts are not a normal occurrence everywhere in the world. Once there is a well-funded, well-maintained electricity generation and supply system, a blackout will be rare. A country with the resources that Guyana has available to it, the national budget having nearly tripled in only a few years, should not be experiencing multiple blackouts a day. For several hours, almost every day, only the PUP elite, who all have generators, could possibly find the current electricity crisis an acceptable state of affairs. The government must immediately explain to the Guyanese people why there continues to be electricity rationing if they have removed the big businesses they claimed were overwhelming generation capacity. Clearly, that was either not the problem in the first place, or they have been utterly incompetent in remedying the situation. This must be rectified as soon as possible, and President Ali, Vice President Jagdeo, and Minister Ajil must take responsibility for this total failure of planning, management, and execution. GPL has long warned that there is a need for additional generation capacity this year, with its projected consumption for 2023-2027 having been published. Why was the company not supported with this additional generation capacity? A crisis was inevitable, but worse than that, predictable. Even further, Why does the government seem to believe that it should only procure just enough capacity to barely meet generation needs? Even after additional capacity comes online in mid December, we will still have generation capacity either below peak demand or barely at peak demand, depending on whom you ask. This is a recipe for blackouts, the moment even the smallest issue affects some generators. The government must procure at least 50 megawatts of additional electricity generation capacity so that we can properly mitigate the near term blackout risk. Sadly, this is but one element of this crisis. As this week we also saw a 46.5 megawatt generation failure at the Garden of Eden plant. Currently, GPL's own reports class 63% of generation capacity for the Demerara Berbice interconnected system as quote unquote unreliable. This practice must stop. Not even a cake shop would rest its hopes on an oven that is unreliable. Until the gas to energy project, which appears to be delayed, is completed, there should be a renewed focus on adding reliable capacity to the system, as was part of the APNU AFC plan. Once that project comes on stream, we can rest easy that there will be reliable backup generation. Further, when the nation's power needs exceed that project's 300 megawatt capacity, our expanded reliable backup will ensure there are no blackouts until additional low cost generation is developed. The government must also invest in building a reliable transmission and distribution network, without which electricity supply will continue to be unreliable despite improvements in generation capacity. As we don't expect much progress on this front under the PUP, the next coalition government will invest heavily in such infrastructure. This brings us to the question of the perpetually problematic Amalia Falls Hydro project, which the government insists on promoting, even though investors view it with as much skepticism as the public. Concerns persist about the feasibility of this project, given the low water levels in the Amalia River during the dry season, as reported by residents and miners in the area. While we believe that hydroelectric power has a role to play in supplying inland and small hinterland communities, all renewable energy sources, such as solar, should be explored as viable options. This will be our approach to energy policy. Guyanese who pay hard earned dollars for electricity are entitled to reliable service. Everyone, except for the PUP's elite, understands this. The government must urgently shift its focus from the Amalia Falls hydro dream to the reality that is the crippling blackouts we face today and will continue to face every day for the next few years. At the same time, options for long-term continued expansion of power generation, whether through natural gas, solar, hydro, or wind power, should be evaluated. When in office, we will ensure there is sizable, consistent investment in the electrical transmission grid, with a particular emphasis on ensuring it is reliable. Electricity is an essential service. Because the PUP has nothing but contempt for the average Guyanese, they are perfectly happy to see Guyanese sweltering in this heat or studying by torchlight. We do not accept that blackouts must
News source. Could you say if the opposition has been able to measure the economic impact, in part or whole, that the power outages would have had on the commercial sector and even the larger economy?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for your question. I believe that in a previous press release where we again saw an electricity crisis on the PUP, we put out some figures as to the hourly cost to the economy. So you may be able to see that. I don't have it on hand, but it's in one of our previous press releases, so we can give you that afterward. But there's a couple of different elements to this cost which we really need to highlight. The first is obviously that a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, are unable to function without electricity. The second cost is that there is a spoilage of goods that require refrigeration. We've seen a lot of small businesses complaining about that lately. Additionally, one of the things to note is that where businesses have to procure additional generation capacity, their own generators. Really, those are costs that increase the cost of goods because businesses then have to add on those additional costs to their goods. And so the current electricity crisis is actually even going to drive up the cost of living because businesses right now are searching for generators. Now, once they buy those generators, they have to pass along those costs. So there's a wider range of economic costs that we're seeing as a result of this. And that I think should be alarming to consumers, to businesses, and to the average Guyanese who's suffering in this environment.
You also spoke of the need to add 50 megawatts more to the existing system. Could you say if you think this should be hybrid or they should bring in it entirely?
Yes, absolutely. Well, given that we're looking to make use of natural gas, obviously there should be an emphasis where possible for us to bring in generators that have that capacity so that in future they can be flexibly made use of. But really what we want to emphasize here is that there seems to be an attitude that we should have just enough power. Really what we need to do is to ensure that there is sufficient excess that we can deal with any issues that come up. And as an example, we saw the 46.5 megawatt problem that we had earlier this week. If we had 50 megawatts of spare resource, we would have been able to deal with the problem pretty much immediately, as opposed to, I think it was 10 hours of blackout that many people faced. That is the proper way to manage an electricity system. And so that is really what we want to help the Guyanese people to get a sense of it.
We also, during the budget debate, flagged the fact that the government was focusing on infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc., and not focusing on other elements that will impact the people. We felt that electricity was a priority, and there were areas in which you could have removed resources from infrastructure, because anyhow, a lot of it wouldn't be done because we don't have the capacity. And if they had used those resources to put towards electricity, we would have been in a different position. But the government needs a high budget for infrastructure to facilitate the corruption that is ongoing in the government system.
Welcome back, folks. And that is part of the sentiments coming out of the People's National Congress Reforms press conference that was held just yesterday. Disruptions, thanks to blackout. Disruptions. A couple of things before we let you go. We're happy to see that the Cancer Society, they said they are going to screen about 500 women between October and year end. Kudos to the Guyana Cancer Society on that front. Early detection is key, both men and women. Early detection is key. I know some of this is going to affect some of you now. This other story as well. The annual Rum Festival has been postponed until next year. I don't know if the folks say the blackouts affecting them or will affect them, or you can't drink rum in darkness. But they said the annual Rum Festival was slated to be held at the Everest Cricket Ground, I think, has been postponed until next year. Yeah, I could see some of you very saddened by that. An alleged child rapist accused, Colin Cummins, freed following a retrial. He was initially sentenced to 30 years in jail. Appealed the matter at the Court of Appeal. Reviewing his case, they set him free. Colin Cummins has a second chance. See, do it differently, Colin. Do it differently. He was facing a 30-year sentence. Ingrid Carter, 30 years. Yeah. Do differently. Second chance. Do differently. They're telling us two persons were air dashed from Bartica overnight thanks to the GDF. One fella had some complications from an operation he had. Air dashed. We got to make sure all of these hospitals are up and functioning, and we got the capable, competent people. You got to air dash people, you got to air dash them. But we got to ensure that systems work as well. Kudos to the Guyana Defense Force for the part that they play and continue to play in these efforts of getting people to medical attention. You know, kudos to them. Folks, that's going to do it for us at this end this morning. That is going to do it for us at this end. Good to see so many of you on the live. Did I see Debbie Collins? Beatrice Selby on the live this morning. Good to see each and every one of you. Dolly Anderson, Colin Adams, good to see you on the live as well. And all the other folks joining us. Leon Blair, Veronica Primo Rollins, we see you there as well. Randy Cole, good to see you, Randy. Roxanne Garraway, good to see you. You know, Roxanne said back to the 70s and 80s. That's to give the 70s and 80s a bad name. Hear what they're doing here. So Vita, June and Leon, Edward, Andrew Griffith, good to see all of you folks on the live this morning. Give us a good share before you go. Good folks, partner with us as well. And we want you to know, as you run off, folks, you need a good justice of the peace. Commissioner votes to affidavit. They have the Alistair Collins firm down there, the Cardiel Mall on Lamaha Street, between Camp and Waterloo Streets, folks. On the ground floor of the Cardiel Mall, they got a very, very competent team, real competent team for all your documentation needs. 649-6410, 649-6410, 685-6448, 685-6448. These guys are going to give you the fixer-upper. Yep. And as I said, folks, we can't do this without y'all. We just can't. We just can't, good folks, do without y'all. We need your continued support and generosity. And as you know, we're available via Cash App and Zelle and PayPal, MMG, Western Union, MoneyGram as well, for your convenience, of course. All for your convenience. Of course, we got the QR codes for you, because I know some of you tech savvy. You just scan your requisite QR code, whether it's Cash App, Zelle, or PayPal. And now, folks, as you know, we even have the facility to accept your debit and credit cards as well. You can scan that link. It takes you to the page, or you can shoot us a message on our official WhatsApp number, 627-6963, 627-6963. And we're going to shoot you that link so you can keep contributing to our program to keep us going. That being said, good folks, that's going to do it for us this morning. Thanks to all of you who joined us. Kyle Bainobi, see you there, Kyle, and Carlton Beverly, and Karen Gittins. Good to see you. Veronica Primo Rollins as well. See so many of you on the live still. Thanks for joining us this morning. That's going to do it for us. At this end, until our next podcast.